Welcome to Prime Time Krime. I'm your host, Kiley. Let's talk right now on true crime, and then together we're going to work on warming up some cold cases. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome to Prime Time Krime. This is Kiley. For those of you that don't know me, I host a weekly true crime podcast focusing on unsolved cases. It is called Prime Time Krime. That is crime with a K. I typically will do a what's going on right now in true crime intro before I get into the episode. But other than that, there is no small talk. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself to Megan's listeners since she is putting this episode on her feed this week. I'm not going to do right now in true crime because this is a previously recorded episode and I am just recording this intro to say hi, introduce myself, and I hope you will come over to my podcast feed and give it a listen. I do weekly episodes and release every Thursday night at 7 Central. And this is one of my shorter episodes, but it is an episode that is so important to cover. The information on it is limited, hence why the episode is a little bit shorter, but I am going to be referencing a few things throughout that are all going to be linked below in the show notes. So I hope you enjoy the episode and please come and give me a follow wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that is Primetime Krime. Crime is with a K. And you can find my Instagram and Facebook pages under the same name as well. I hope you guys enjoy today's episode. It is a very important one to listen to. Okay, guys, today we are jumping in to a very, very important episode. The more people that hear this episode, the more people that see the photos that I'm going to be sharing on my Instagram and Facebook pages, the higher chance we have at reuniting Kevin Verville Jr. with his family and ending this 45-year-old mystery. What happened to Kevin Verville Jr.? I hinted about doing this episode when I did my CrimeCon recap. This story is an infant abduction story that I first became familiar with when I listened to my friend Holly's podcast, which is Crime with Holly. I'm going to link the episode below so you guys can go listen to it. And in that episode, Holly interviewed Angeline Hartman from NCMEC, and she shared Kevin's story with Holly and her listeners. And then when I went to CrimeCon, I was able to attend the session that was about Kevin Jr. and got to hear directly from his family. And I knew immediately that I needed to cover Kevin's case on my podcast. His case is exactly the type of case that I want to cover on my podcast because it's one that is solvable and it's one that the more people that hear it and see it, there is a higher likelihood that Kevin could be reunited with his family. His type of case is the reason I have a podcast that covers unsolved cold cases. I cover people who are missing, and I also cover people that don't even know that they are missing. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. I have previously covered the story of Steve Carter, who one day just kind of got a wild hair and thought that something didn't quite add up in his life and his upbringing and decided that he wanted to try to figure out who his true identity was. And he did that and found out his true identity was Mark Barnes. You guys can go back and listen to that episode for a little more context, but he very much discovered his own identity after decades of just thinking something wasn't quite right. So today we get to hear Kevin's story. It's a very emotional one, and seeing his family still fight for answers and fight for justice after 45 years really puts it all into perspective. They've lived with this horrific tragedy most of their lives, and they're not giving up trying to find Kevin. And that is where we all come in as a true crime consumer community. I always preach sharing these episodes, and I mean that for every single one. So this one is no different. Share this episode, share the social media posts, and follow Kevin's family as they've started a Facebook page to try and raise awareness about his case. I'll link that below in the show notes as well. Let's go ahead and get into Kevin's story now. Kevin Art Verville Jr. was born on June 14th of 1980 to his parents, Kevin Verville Sr. and Angelina Verville. Kevin Sr. was a Marine corporal and was 21 years old, and Angelina was 22. They were newly married just 2 years before they had Kevin Jr. After Kevin Jr. was born, they spent about a week in the hospital due to Kevin having jaundice, but they finally got to bring their baby home. The new family of 3 settled into their home, which was an off-base apartment complex called Sterling Homes. It was located near Camp Pendleton in Oceanside, California. Everything changed on July 1st of 1980. Kevin Jr. was only 17 days old. The family had just returned home from the grocery store. They didn't even get a chance to get inside of their home when they were approached again by a woman who in the days before had introduced herself as Sheila and said she worked for a program called HELP and said that she was a social worker with this program. The HELP program essentially helped low-income military families with diapers and formula and other infant needs. The Verville family had decided that they did want to go ahead and sign up for this program. Sheila offered to take Angelina and baby Kevin to the social services office as they would need to weigh baby Kevin and get some other information for them to officially sign up for the program. Sheila also had spoken about picking up another woman on the way there who was also going to sign up for services. Kevin Sr. told them to go ahead and go, and he was going to stay back behind and put away the groceries that they had just gotten home with. Angelina and baby Kevin got into this woman's car, which is described as a gray or silver 4-door sedan, and off they went. Sheila drove to a remote location near base and went ahead and asked Angelina to get out and go knock on the door to let the other woman know that her ride was there. When Angelina got out, Sheila drove off with baby Kevin. In broad daylight in 1980 in California, this woman, Sheila, kidnapped Kevin Jr. Angelina, of course, was distraught, upset, crying, flailing her arms around. Not only was her baby gone, but she was left stranded, and I'm sure she was so confused. A passerby spotted her and drove her to the police station, where she reported that somebody had taken Kevin Jr. Upon learning of what happened, law enforcement began questioning other residents of the apartment complex, and they learned that Sheila had been around the complex for several days leading up to Kevin's abduction. She was asking questions of residents, almost like she was looking for a specific type of baby. They thought that she was looking for one younger than 6 months old. A lot of the residents of the complex that were interviewed also believed that Sheila was pregnant. She also discussed having ties to the Philippines and had spoken about traveling there before and even possibly had spoken the language. And it seems with her essentially taking Kevin Jr. that she very much was looking for a specific type of baby, a boy, and one that had ties to the Philippines. Kevin Sr. is Caucasian and Angelina is from the Philippines. One could possibly assume that Sheila likely had a partner that was from the Philippines. So she needed a baby that fit that bill. After Kevin was taken, the San Diego FBI worked to try and locate Kevin Jr. in the beginning. But after a few months, the media coverage and attention on Kevin Jr.'s case unfortunately died down. He still remains missing 45 years later. With talking to the other residents of the complex, they were able to come up with a composite sketch of Sheila. And in my opinion, for being done way back when in 1980, I think the sketch is pretty good. And there is one that depicts her with and without glasses. But keep in mind, this was from 1980. So this is how she looked back then. She could look significantly different now. Sheila is described as around 20 years old, around 5 foot 2 inches tall, and around 120 pounds. She did appear to be pregnant. She had red or blonde frizzy hair and glasses, and the hair could have been a wig, and the glasses could have been part of her disguise. She did have a specific type of tattoo, which is described as the following: a circle tattoo with a cross inside of it between her thumb and index finger. Inside of that web area between those two fingers located on her left hand. This is a pretty identifiable feature. Angeline talked about in the session at CrimeCon that there is a typical profile for an infant abductor. Typically, they are going to be a female of childbearing age. They often will be married or in a relationship. They might express the desire to have a child or talk about possibly losing a child previously. They are most likely compulsive and they can be very manipulative. We see it sometimes where it is somebody that is known to the abductor. We saw this in the Heidi Broussard case. Heidi and her daughter were taken by Heidi's best friend, and her best friend ended up taking Heidi's life and abducting her baby girl. But then again, we also see a stranger abduction type of situation where typically the person that is doing the abducting is posing as somebody that is there to help. In Kevin Jr.'s case, it was a social worker. Sometimes it's a nurse or somebody else in the healthcare field. And that is exactly what happened in this case. Sheila pretended to be a social worker. She spent several days at the apartment complex speaking with dozens of residents about this help program, essentially going door to door looking for a specific type of baby. And given the fact that she was on the search essentially for a couple of days before she eventually reapproached the Verville family, it's all very interesting because this type of behavior is obviously impulsive behavior. However, we see a very methodical, meticulously planned, manipulative approach to getting these people to trust her by presenting herself as a social worker, by presenting this program that's going to help with diapers and formula and other basic infant needs. Because, yeah, having a baby is expensive. It was expensive in 1980. It's expensive now. So this woman really played on that and used that as a manipulative tactic to get them to trust her. And given the fact that this woman, Sheila, was so young as well and appeared to be pregnant, why wouldn't the Vervilles have trusted her? They had no reason not to trust this woman, was with the help program, and were there to help them. So the Verville family keeps up the search for Kevin Jr. Kevin Jr.'s sister, Angelica, who was born after his abduction, has become a very important part of trying to find her brother. Angelina, unfortunately, has suffered from a couple of strokes and is no longer verbal. Her daughter, Angelica, is now her mother's voice, and she works alongside of her parents to try and raise awareness about Kevin Jr.'s abduction and his case. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children have done some amazing work to help this family. They are the reason that I'm bringing you Kevin's story today. Kevin Jr.'s family were brave enough to get on stage at CrimeCon in front of a very large crowd alongside Angeline Hartman and share Kevin's story with us. Angelina and Kevin Sr. were so young when this happened, just 21 and 22 years old. Imagine your whole world being ripped from you when you were still so young, trying to navigate life as new parents. My heart truly breaks for them, and as you can see, this still deeply affects them to this day. It has been 45 years. Likely for them, it feels simultaneously like an eternity and also probably just yesterday. I cover a lot of cases, and a lot of them are tragic, a lot of them are sad, but this one very much struck a nerve with me. And I want so badly for this family to find Kevin. A case that spans 45 years. A family that desperately wants to find their son. A now 45-year-old adult Kevin who quite possibly doesn't even know that he is a missing person and that his family is out there looking for him. And that is where all of you come in. How can we, as a true crime content consumer community, really make a difference? First of all, go follow Kevin's family's Facebook page, which, like I said, I'm going to link below. Second of all, with a renewed interest in Kevin's case and Angelica pushing investigators about the status of her brother's case, The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has come up with an age-progressed photo of Kevin. They, of course, are working on limited information. Kevin was only 17 days old when he was kidnapped, so the number of photos of him are limited. But their age-progressed photos very much always blow me away with their accuracy. And they do take a lot of time, and they use many different resources to come up with those photos. So I'm going to ask you to please share that age-progressed photo of Kevin. Share the composite sketch of the abductor, Sheila. Her tattoo, in my opinion, is pretty identifiable, but we also have to remember that this is a long time ago, and that tattoo might possibly have changed or been covered up or possibly even removed. If you lived in California in 1980 and you knew anybody that had a newborn baby who was half Caucasian, half Filipino, if you know of anyone that looks similar to the age-progressed photo of Kevin Jr., if you saw something, if you heard something, if something clicks when you hear this story, you are encouraged to reach out to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST or the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI and tips.fbi.gov. The FBI is honoring their $10,000 reward leading to information for the location of Kevin Verville Jr. and the apprehension of his kidnapper. There are power in numbers. We can make a difference in Kevin Verville's case. We can help his family. We can share this story. We can share the age-progressed photo and the composite sketch of the abductor. And we can keep the Verville family in our prayers and hope that 2025 is the year that they get answers and finally find their son. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today and listening to Kevin Verville Jr.'s story. Like I said at the top of the episode, it is such an important one, and I very much just want to help get the word out, spread the message about Kevin's story and that his family is still here. They are still looking for him, and they are not going to give up until he is returned home. Check out my social media, Instagram and Facebook. If you aren't following me over there on Instagram, it's at Prime Time Krime Pod. Remember, that's crime with a K. And on Facebook, you can just search for Prime Time Krime and my page should pop up. I'm going to be sharing photos of Kevin, the age-progressed photo of Kevin, and also the photos of the kidnapper, Sheila. Please take a minute to share those photos to your social media. You never know who is going to happen upon it, and maybe they'll remember something that they didn't even know was significant. And that tip could end up changing the trajectory of a case forever. So that is why we share. That is why we take to social media. And that is why it's so important for us as a community to come together, because it's not, at the end of the day, about entertaining stories. These are real people with real lives. And the best way we can pay it forward to help this family is by talking about Kevin Jr.'s case and sharing his story to the masses. Get it out there, get as many people on board as we can. I did message Angelica to let her know that I was going to be covering Kevin's case, and I asked her if there was anything that she wanted me to include. And she said, you know, her parents are both elderly now. They're both not in greatest of health, unfortunately, and they have lived their whole lives wondering where their son is, who took their son. And they very much hope that Kevin Jr. can be found before they pass away. And that, I think, really puts it into perspective how much we need to all work together as a community to get this story out and to really help this family, to rally around them, because there is power in numbers. And I fully believe that with my heart and soul, that we as a true crime community can help propel this story and get it out there to the right people. It is so, so important. I know I always talk about that, but in this one, I think it is so important that we all rally around the Verville family and really do whatever we can to help them. So I really do thank you guys so much for listening to this story. Please join the Facebook page. I'm going to link that below. And I'm going to also link all of the source material I used for this episode as well. Like I said, NCMEC has done amazing work kind of bringing everything together and helping this family. They even did a recreation of what happened that day, an actual video recreation. And it absolutely will just break your heart. I'm going to link that below so you guys can watch that as well. But there are power in numbers. And this is one case where I truly think we can make a difference if we all just come together and do a simple click and share that could reach the right person. You just never know. So thank you guys so much as always for listening. Please support the Verville family. They need it now more than ever. So thank you guys so much. I will see you next week for a brand new unsolved case, and I hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe. Bye.